Tonight on CTV News, it's been a long time coming, but the government announces a partial return to democracy for ECAN. A Christchurch developer gives the council a serve, and a request for more blood is made.
Broadcasting across Canterbury, from the CTV studio, this is First at 5.
Good evening. It's been a long time coming, but this afternoon the government announced a partial return to democracy for Environment Canterbury. It's proposing a mixed governance model. The Regional Council has had government-appointed commissioners since 2010, and under Environment Minister Dr Nick Smith, the proposal is for once again 6 more. They'll continue on as appointed by the government, while 7 will be elected by ratepayers. Dr Smith says this will ensure democracy and stability within the council. The public has 6 weeks to have their say on whether or not they are okay with this development. Well, to council incentives now, and we've got to try and get people back into the central city of Christchurch, don't we? And one Christchurch developer could be in line for a rebate worth nearly $800,000. The developer will be one of several to cash in on the council's scheme, encouraging construction in central Christchurch.
This is the site where 43 two-bedroom units and a cafe will soon be built, right on the corner of Madras and Armagh Streets. The units will be housed in 3 buildings, between 3 and 4 stories high each. Since 2013, developers have been allowed to seek rebates of up to $500,000 from the City Council, but tomorrow the Strategy and Finance Committee will seek to approve a $762,000 rebate for the developer of this site. If it gets the committee's tick of approval, the full council will need to sign it off, as it exceeds the $500,000 limit. The funding comes from the $11 million pool allocated to the Central City Residential Rebate Scheme. $6 million of the fund has already been confirmed, with the remaining $4.41 million still up for grabs. The scheme was set up to incentivise residential development in the Central City area. Once allocated a rebate, the developer receives the money once the first building inspection is passed by the council. The fund expires in June next year, but the council wouldn't name the developers involved for reasons of confidentiality.
Well, a Christchurch developer, another one, is shooting down plans in front of the Christchurch City Council that could see more green space in the CBD. Up to 15 property owners are being offered rebates in exchange for letting a transitional projects go ahead on their land. But a developer says it's simply not viable. Marcus Gibbs explains.
It's a common sight in Christchurch, empty spaces where earthquake-damaged buildings once stood, scattered throughout the central city. Greening the Rubble, Gap Filler and a group called Life in Vacant Spaces have transformed many of these sites over the last 4 years, providing a depth of colour for the locals and tourists to enjoy.
We've worked with art installations, with events like Festival of Transitional Architecture, with startup businesses like food carts or galleries or retail shops in prefabs.
Lately, no one has been willing to let Greening the Rubble build a temporary garden on their site. Instead, developers are choosing car parks over colour, or choosing instead to completely rebuild. That's where the Christchurch City Council comes in, and Strategy and Finance Committee will tomorrow consider a proposal from the Life in Vacant Spaces Trust to offer an incentive for developers willing to allow their land to be used as a hub for a transitional project.
We're very, very excited about it.
Rates for emission is one possible option. However, staff are recommending the council adopts a different option, which would make a cash grant available for property owners to offset rates. $75,000 is up for grabs. That's 15 $5,000 grants, one per project or site.
The rates rebates will open up a whole lot of other possibilities.
However, a major property developer in Christchurch is not certain the $75,000 incentive scheme will fly with other property owners.
$5,000 in the context of things when you take into account the rates that the owner will have to pay and potentially the loss of income that he might have to forego by not using the site in other areas such as car parking or leasing the site to construction companies and so forth. It's a relatively small sum of money, so I'm not sure how effective it will be.
Ernest says on a large site in the central city, rates can be as high as $15,000 to $20,000 a year for a piece of vacant land. Ernest DeVille says it's simple, car parks just pay more.
Property owners are really motivated to try and get an income stream, and the easiest, most flexible way for them to do that is to lease it out for short, long-term car parking, because then at any stage they can step in and develop the site.
A developer earns 50% of the revenue if a car park company uses their site. Even Bree can agree, it's tough to win over the developers.
Yeah, a lot of them end up putting in a car park just to cover their base costs while they're working through their future plans.
Bree's hoping small, community-minded landowners will find the rates rebate a great idea.
The fact is, those kind of small-scale activities, they contribute a lot to the city's economy in the long term, but they may not contribute any income to the landowner, at least in those initial stages. So the rates rebate will definitely be a big help with that.
Might favour some guy who has got a small site and has no intentions to do anything with it in the medium or long term.
One solution could be for organisations to work to beautify the car parks, creating small long-term projects.
The council gets the beautification that it wants, and the property owner gets his income stream.
If the Strategy and Finance Committee signs off the proposal, the next step is for the full council to vote. The grant would be available from May until June next year. Marcus Gibbs, CTV News.
The price of milk has dropped again for producers, but this time it's not because of the infant formula contamination scare.
Dairy prices have fallen again, and now they're trading at 48% less than a year ago. In last night's Fonterra dairy auction, prices fell on average nearly 9% across all its products. But analysts say it had nothing to do with the milk contamination scare earlier this month. They say the farm gate prices for farmers this season will now be 10 cents a kg less than Fonterra's estimate of $4.70. And the latest pricing is what they had forecast for, and it comes as little surprise. Other analysts say demand for milk products outside the large markets of Russia and China is likely to increase and should show price rises in the second half of this year. The government is yet to make any arrests or provide further information on what threatened to contaminate Fonterra's infant formula. Supermarkets still have protective measures in place to prevent contamination. The threat was made last year, with the government only publicly announcing it this month, as the threat had been made with a deadline if contamination would be enacted by the end of the month. The government tried to offset market panic by announcing it 2 weeks prior to last night's auction.
Well, it's used for medical treatments, but more is needed to meet the growing demand, and giving plasma is more important than giving blood. Here's why.
With Christchurch's new blood bank comes a need for more blood and plasma donors. The new facility opened in November, and although Canterbury donors are some of the most generous in the country, the New Zealand Blood Service says it needs 336 new plasma donors this year to keep up with demand. Plasma, nicknamed liquid gold, is the gold-coloured liquid in blood, carrying blood cells around the body. It is in high demand and there is no substitute for it. Healthcare services in Christchurch currently need an average of 161 units of plasma per week. It's used for treating burn victims, people who have lost a lot of blood, kidney patients and chemotherapy patients. It's also used for bleeding disorders including haemophilia and boosts the immune system to protect against infections. In fact, clinical demand for plasma is increasing at nearly 10% each year. With plasma donations, the red cells are returned to the donor, meaning they can donate more frequently than whole blood donors. More than 1,400 people have donated plasma in Canterbury in the last 2 years, making up 21% of the nation's donors. So, if you can help and want to find out more, you can go to nzblood.co.nz.
Well, still to come on your local news, I'll speak to former ECAN councillor Sir Kerry Burke. He'll join me to discuss the government's mixed governance model for ECAN. And welcome back to CTV News. Well, its councillors were sacked 5 years ago, but after lengthy delays in re-establishing Environment Canterbury's governance structure, today the government announced it wants a mixed model representation, a council made up of half government-appointed commissioners and half elected councillors. But will they work together? To discuss this now is the former chair of ECAN, Sir Kerry Burke, is in the studio. And good evening to you.
Good evening,
Thanks so much for your time. What is your initial reaction to this? Is this puffery? Is this a step in the right direction? or is this a tokenism gesture?
You'd have to describe it as a step in the right direction, but it's not the sort of size of step that should have been taken. Canterbury is the largest regional council in New Zealand in terms of population and area. There's absolutely no reason why it shouldn't have a fully elected
You see, some would suggest,
council.
though, Sakiri, the reason why this is a partial return to democracy, if you can even call it that, is because why rock the boat now if it's going okay at the moment? Or is that not a fair comment?
That treats the people of Canterbury like children, really, like they're not really grown up enough to make sensible decisions. The decision the government made 5 years ago was wrong. It was based on false premises. I've read more nonsense in the statement put out by ministers
so you've got the statement in front of you this afternoon.
Yeah.
What is wrong with that statement that you say is factually incorrect, Sakiri?
It says there was no water plan. That is not true. The water plan for Canterbury was proposed in July 2004, after which it's beyond the control of the elected council and it's in the hands of commissioners.
All right. They would argue the reason why you were sacked in the first place is Environment Canterbury was nothing more than a dysfunctional bureaucracy. You couldn't get your act together.
No, that's also not true. They set up a firing squad with Wyatt Creech in charge of an inquiry, and he concluded that the differences between councillors at the Environment Canterbury Council was the working of democracy, not dysfunction at all. It was the working of democracy. Goodness me, with 650,000 people in Canterbury, you're going to get different views, and it's appropriate that those views should be contested around a democratically elected council. Now what we're going to have is 7 elected and 6 carrying on behalf of the government to make sure that the other 7 behave.
In a way, this almost seems like the current structure of the council. Yes, we've got councillors, right? But let's be honest about it, they ain't got no power at all.
They don't, but they are on a track to getting it back. Here, I mean, for example, Chris, here it says the District Health Board model works well, and so it does. But central government provides all the money for district health boards. Environment Canterbury gets its money by rating its communities, and those communities do not have authority over the majority of the council.
You raise an interesting point, because ECAN wants to charge what it wants to put up its rates by.
It's a very large amount.
Yeah, a large amount, right? How can it possibly do that when it's got no mandate to do that?
It has. The present government has given it the authority to do that.
Is that right or wrong in your mind?
That's wrong. No, of course. From the Boston Tea Party and the tea parties that took place in other ports down the east coast of the United States in the 1770s, the principle is established: no taxation without representation. You have to be elected, in the way we think of governance, to have the right to tax your community. Yeah. And what we've got now, we have had for 5 years, are a bunch of unelected people, some of whom have competencies, others don't. One swore at a meeting of farmers, quite what he said we don't know, but they do not have that democratic mandate, and that's fundamental, I think.
The odd thing about this, Sakiri, is there seems to me that somebody has told them they better start communicating with the public. And I'll tell you why. I was quite surprised when one of the communications officers there started to make contact with News Talk ZB, saying we'll be delighted to get somebody to front up on the program. Is this all part and parcel of buttering up the public to say we're back in business, love us some more?
Well, maybe they're trying to get across to the dictatorship is actually trying to communicate with the population. I don't know. I'm not on their mailing list. Haven't been for a little while. But
all right, I want you to speculate for me tonight on the program. Why were you sacked?
Because the government wanted to have hands-on management of water in Canterbury. Water is very important for their basic supporters, because
farmers.
The farming community, you can quadruple the value of your farm if you get access to water. When there was a gold rush for water, the consent system was overwhelmed because everybody was trying to get in, and it's a first in, first served. If you get your consent application in before me, I could have twice the merit, but you get dealt with first. So they did not trust the people of Canterbury, particularly the people of Christchurch.
How are you feeling about this now then, when you know this? Obviously we had indications this was coming. When you read the statement saying, look, it's a partial return to democracy, what was your initial response?
I thought, well, better than the current system, but not best practice.
Is there even a point of having the commissioner stay on?
No.
I mean, it's should it be either one or the other?
Well, this halfway house is to save face for the government, I think, so that they can put statements out like they've done today to say, well, these people in Canterbury, they're not quite ready for high school, so we'll put them into intermediate and on the way through. If that is the case, that's patronising. It's insulting. Patronising. It is insulting, I know, but and especially when it's built on the basis of matters which are not accurate.
Just finally, only got about 30 seconds left. What do you think, once this is all sorted, once the so-called elected representatives are back in, what's the priority for ECAN?
Well, water will still be the priority, but air quality is a priority. There are getting the public passenger transport system functioning is a priority. There's a cleaning up the rivers and the lakes and so on. That's very important.
Will you give it another second shot, you reckon?
I'm not sure yet.
So you're not ruling it out?
Oh, no, I wouldn't rule it out, no, but life's been busy and we're building a new house this year because our old one's coming down in a month or two, so I'll be quite busy in the meantime.
Well, you seem nice enough. I'll probably give you a vote.
Thank you very much,
Security
Chris.
Thanks for coming
Thanks, Chris.
to, I was about to say News Talk ZB. What is this? CTV News. Yes, I better get that right. Thank you, appreciate that. So the mixed model of representation is open for public feedback until the 1st of May. And don't forget, it is important to have your say on whether or not you agree. Democracy, right? Democracy. Let's hope for that, shall we? And also a reminder that ECAN is currently seeking public feedback for its 10-year plan, just as important as the Christchurch City Council's one. It's a chance for you to have your say on its intentions, and probably of some of them you probably won't be too popular to, I'd imagine, or they won't be. Plans include raising rates by 4.5%. That is on top of the average of 8.5% already. All right? Tighter controls on home fires and higher fares on the city's buses. And you can have your say at ECAN up until the 13th of April. Well, still to come here on CTV News, thousands of students going without, but why, and your region's weather. Welcome back to CTV News, I do know that. Well, things you do for charity. A group of Canterbury University students have spent the last 2 weeks without doing much at all, reflecting on themselves, you might say, but just how well did they do? Jared McCulloch reports.
It's been the challenge for around 100 Canterbury University students, giving up something for 2 weeks, all in the name of charity. Now the fortnight's up and the organisers of this creative fundraising event say it was a huge success.
We were blown away by the donations raised from the emerging leaders taking part in it. They went above and beyond, and it was such a special moment to have all the charities come and personally thank them. It was awesome.
And all up, the team raised over $5,700.
It was awesome. The donations just kept going up and up and up. We couldn't believe it.
It all started over 3 months ago when Bridget and Rachel teamed up to start a new innovative idea to get people involved in an alternative way of raising money, all for a good cause.
How 2 Weeks Without came about was an idea that me and my twin sister had to bring us closer together. And we thought, let's go 2 weeks without these crazy ideas, but let's donate to our favourite charities. And we thought, let's bring everyone involved into it. We were lucky enough to receive the UC Innovators Scholarship, which gave us 10 whole weeks to bring the social enterprise to life. So it's super recent, and we're just stoked to see how much it's grown in such a short period of time.
There were 11 teams of 10 from the Emerging Leaders program at the university taking part in the fundraising effort for charities, including Husky Rescue, the White Elephant Trust and Help for the Homeless. And with every new project comes a trial period to see if it would really work.
I went 2 weeks without shoes. I was lucky because I did it over summertime, so it was really good weather.
As for Rachel,
It was fine, it wasn't too difficult compared to some of the ones the emerging leaders have come up with, but it's important to remember that when Bridget went 2 weeks without shoes and I went two weeks without makeup, we had no resources at that stage. We certainly didn't have a website, we had very few connections, and we didn't know how to do online fundraising, so we were sort of just stumbling through it as we went.
But when the teams got together, the question was, what would they go 2 weeks without?
One of the most challenging ones was 2 weeks without hot water, which Team Purple did. So they weren't only allowed to not have showers, they also couldn't have tea or Milo or anything like that. So they, on last Friday, they actually won the award for most challenging prize because it was pretty difficult.
There's a number of different things you can do for 2 weeks without. You can go without shoes or even your iPhone, or maybe your reflection.
So they couldn't see Facebook photos of themselves, no selfies, couldn't look in the peripheral vision of seeing them past shop windows. So every time they'd open up their laptops and lectures, they'd have to quickly put it down so they wouldn't look at their reflection. So yeah, that was quite a challenging one, but also really creative as well.
But although they managed no shoes and makeup, could they manage some of the other challenges?
No Snapchat on the reflection, that could be a little bit tricky. And no hot water as we're heading into winter, I think that would be a little bit miserable. So the emerging leaders probably did it at just the right time, before it got really too cold and their flats were a little bit freezing.
And when the 2 weeks were up, a prize-giving event was held to officially give the donations to the chosen local charities.
We held the event here at the Shilling Club last Friday at 7 p.m. We had more than 100 people turn up, so all of the emerging leaders who took part in the 2 weeks without were there, and plus we had representatives from each of the 3 charities there as well. So yeah, really successful night, and Bridget and I were really humbled to be a part of this really awesome movement that's helped local charities.
The next step is to put the challenge forth to other universities and businesses around the country to see if they could go 2 weeks without. Jared McCulloch, CTV News.
And now it's time for your region's weather.
Well, would you believe it? If you thought it felt just like yesterday, you would be right. So let's get into it. Timaru, Temuka and Geraldine, 14. Ashburton and Methven, you're on a high of 14 today. Rakaia, 14 for you also. Further north, Darfield, Leeston and Rolleston, you are all sitting on 14 degrees today. Lincoln and Christchurch, similar picture, 14. Over in Akaroa now, it was a cooler day for you guys, sitting on 13. To North Canterbury now, Kaiapoi, Rangiola and Amberley, you are sitting on 14 degrees. Golden, Hamner Springs and Cheviot, guess what? You are also on 14 today. Kaikoura, 14 for you. Let's take a look at tomorrow's weather now. Timaru, it'll be mostly fine with some sunny periods increasing during the day and some cold southwesterlies dying out. There could be some chance of frost later on in the evening. Tonight's low is 6, tomorrow's high 15. Taking a look at Ashburton now, a fine Thursday is in store for you. That cloud will disappear and there'll be just some cold winds decreasing during the day. Tonight's low is 6, tomorrow's high 15 degrees. Christchurch tomorrow, sunny periods increasing for you with some cold southwesterly breezes easing, and just watch out for light frosts tomorrow night. Your low tonight is 6, tomorrow's high 15. Up in Kaikoura tomorrow, it'll be mostly fine with sunny periods increasing during the day and just some cool southwesterlies dying out. Also, look out for those frosts as well tomorrow night. Tonight's low is 6 though, tomorrow's high 15. Let's take a look at the other areas around the region now. Temuka and Geraldine, there'll be some cloud for you throughout the day on 15. Methven and Rakaia, similar picture for you, cloud 15. Darfield, Leeston, Rolleston and Lincoln, there'll be some cloud also in your area with 15 degrees. Over in Akaroa tomorrow, there'll be some cloud for you at first and then it will start to eventually disappear, 14 degrees. Kaiapoi, Rangiola and Amberley, some cloud for you all day, 15 degrees. Golden, Hamner Springs and Cheviot, there'll be some cloud in the morning, but then look out for those nice sunny skies, 15 degrees. Looking ahead for Canterbury now, mostly fine and sunny on Friday and Saturday with just some moderate northeasterly winds and mild temperatures throughout the day. They'll be cooler in the evening, but expect some high cloud developing later on Saturday and some rain on Saturday night. As for Sunday, it'll be cloudy at first and some periods of rain and some cooler southerly winds. The early showers will clear by Monday with some sunny periods increasing during the day and fresh cold southwesterly winds dying out. And looking ahead to Tuesday, fine and sunny with some moderate northeasterly winds. And that is your weather for Wednesday.
Thank you, Jared, and that is CTV News for Wednesday. You have a great evening, won't you?
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.